Welcome back to Rapid Recap. No Zach today. I'm Tim Verghese, joined by Steve Marik. Steve, we heard from Marcus Satterfield, we heard from Tony White, we heard from a couple of players. We'll start with Tony White. Big test ahead for Nebraska's defense. Kind of what stood out today from White's time in front of the media?
So we know Indiana's offense, best in the conference, one of the best in the country. Tony White was asked, does the Indiana offense remind you of anybody? And he said, no, not really. Just because they're a spread offense, a lot of 10 personnel. They'll play with four receivers a lot, a tight end at times to make it 11 personnel. But just the efficiency that Indiana is playing with right now, through the air, on the ground, they've just been really good, and they haven't really ran into a defense yet that's really slowed them down, because they've scored over 40 points in every game that they have played this season. So just the efficiency is going to be something to keep an eye on. Tony White wants to really kind of do things to maybe throw Indiana off its game, or just kind of slow it down a little bit. A player that Tony White mentioned, and a player that fans should keep an eye on for Indiana's offense, outside of like the quarterback Curtis Rourke and some of the receivers and excellent running backs that they have, is number 44, the tight end, Zach Horton. He's he's one of the 13 James Madison transfers that Curt Cignetti has brought over with him to Bloomington. Watch Horton, number 44, and you're probably going to find the football, because he's a really good blocker. He's going to do a lot of pulling, and doesn't really catch a lot of passes. I think he has 9 completions on the 9 catches on the season so far. But watch number 44 in red on Saturday, and he's generally going to take you to the ball, just because of how important he is to Indiana's run game, and just kind of pulling in gap scheme runs, kind of just doing everything, some zone runs too. So it was a bye week, so not a ton of information right now, but I thought Tony White was good up there, and I think he's confident, and his guys can give Indiana a look defensively that they really haven't seen yet this season.
Yeah, you can tell they're pretty deep into game prep the way they're talking about this, and obviously you can tell what an extra week has done for them the way they're talking about this Indiana team. And Marcus Satterfield, same thing. Just like I think they have a really good feel of who they are now, 6 games into the season, and also who they're facing, what their identity is, what they want to be. I don't think there's too many takeaways from Marcus Satterfield. I think he kind of just kept it brief. Sure. I think one notable thing just about Dylan, just worth mentioning.
Yeah, Marcus Satterfield was asked, what have you seen from Dylan Raiola through 6 games of his true freshman season, his first go around with college football, and Sat said, I've really liked how he has not put so much on his shoulders and thought everything that goes wrong on the field is the quarterback's fault, is Dylan Raiola's fault. So Dylan Raiola has obviously shown in the building to not take things so hard anymore, and that may have been the case early in the season when things haven't been going right for the offense. He puts a lot of pressure on himself and thinks it's his fault. He's been doing better with that, and just kind of not putting everything on himself, and not thinking everything that goes wrong on the field is his fault. So, and that's going to help with confidence, and that just comes with playing more games and understanding that football is an incredibly difficult sport. There's 11 guys on the field, and not everything that goes wrong is one guy's fault, basically.
For sure. And you wonder a little bit, that comment's interesting, considering, we've seen Dylan rattled a couple times and not been able to bounce back, and you wonder a little bit, it's like, hey, is that just more of a mental thing of him trying to be perfect after that, or so we got a little, I feel like we got a little more clarity on that, and you'd think, after a bye, having a week to sit on it, and a Rutgers game where he didn't have to be the hero, he didn't have to be perfect, and they still found a way to win, kind of loosens him up a little bit as well, to like be, allow him to kind of play the game he likes to play. I was going to say, I was out here for some of the other players out here, but thought it was interesting. They had Javin Wright speak. You and me talked about all week how important this game is for Wright specifically. We feel like he's a guy that factors into with his ability in pass coverage, the way he prides himself on his pass coverage ability, and just again, like he's a guy you drop into throwing lanes, and just his size just throws teams off.
6'5", 230 pounds. It's so great that Nebraska's defense has Javin Wright back, and it's kind of interesting this week, because during his treatment, he missed the first 4 games with one of those unfortunate blood clot issues that he's been dealing with his whole life. Javin Wright does not take any contact during the week at practice. The first contact that he takes, the physical contact, is during games. So that's kind of a wild and dynamic that Javin Wright is kind of going through, but it's what he needs to do. He's still getting treatment for the blood clots that he has, and everything is going well on that side, so that's really great to hear on a human perspective. But on the football field, you're absolutely right, Tim. Nebraska has 2 inside linebackers with defensive back backgrounds. In John Bullock, who came to the program as a walk-on safety, and he just transitioned down to an inside linebacker. Same thing with Javin Wright, who came to the program as a corner, a 6'4" corner, and he's just kind of grown up and just developed into an inside linebacker as well. And I think this is a really good Javin Wright game, just considering how Indiana plays. The RPO game that Indiana loves to use with Curtis Rourke at quarterback. I mean, that guy can really rip the ball down the field, and watch the middle of the field in that RPO game. Number 13, Indiana, Elijah Surratt, really good receiver, big body guy who fights for yards after contact, 6'3", 204 pounds. Right in the middle of the field, that's where John Bullock and Javin Wright are going to be playing. So having those 2 guys together with the background that they have as defensive backs is going to be really key. So really good that Javin Wright is back and going. Again, just an odd dynamic where he doesn't tackle, he doesn't take any contact during the week at practice. The only contact he has during the week is during a game. So, it was just fun to hear him talk. He's in good spirits, and he's really, really excited to be out on the field. So good news for him, good news for Nebraska's defense, especially this week against a really kind of, I don't want to say pass-heavy Indiana because they're really balanced, but a really good throwing team in Indiana.
For sure. Speaking of Bullock, we got to hear from him. Anything notable there?
Yeah, he was kind of open and honest about how Nebraska wants to play against Indiana's offense. They really want to disguise coverages, and John Bullock talked about Indiana's previous game. Indiana was on a bye, just like Nebraska was, but before the bye week, they were at Northwestern, and that was a game in the fourth quarter, 24-17 at the start of that fourth quarter. And John Bullock said that Northwestern did a good job, but they weren't really trying to trick Curtis Rourke, Indiana's quarterback. They were just kind of playing their defense and not really trying to cover up anything. That's not going to be the case with Nebraska. They want to go in there and give Curtis Rourke, Indiana's quarterback, a lot of different looks and try to disguise what they're doing to try to mess with him, because that's something that you need to do against a 6-year quarterback who has been there and done that in college football. He spent 5 years at Ohio. He played for former Nebraska coach Frank Solich for the first 2 years of his career. And so maybe that's something that Matt Rule tries to hop on is give Frank Solich a call and try to learn about Curtis Rourke. So I mean, this is a really kind of interesting dynamic with Nebraska trying to play some games and just try to disguise what they're doing pre-snap and just try to give Curtis Rourke, an old veteran quarterback who has seen a lot of stuff, different looks to try to throw him off his game.
You wonder a little bit, for a veteran that is one of the leaders of this defense, to say something like that when they've kept a lot of things close to chest. You wonder a little bit how much of it is mind games, because at this level, with the NFL quarterbacks and highly experienced quarterbacks in college football, it's about making them distrustful of their eyes, essentially, whether that's sim pressures up front, you have 5 guys on the line and you don't know where the pressure's coming from up front, or saying something like, hey, we're going to disguise coverage, and then you get out there and you look like you have a cover 3 shell, but and you actually are in cover 3, but he's keeping in mind in the back of his head the comment of, oh, we're going to disguise coverages. It's not even the idea of actually disguising it, it's just giving the indication that coverages could be hidden is enough to kind of mess with quarterbacks when you get to this level. At lower levels against the typical college quarterback, you can kind of get away with just getting after them and running regular old coverage. But against some of these veterans, a guy like Rourke, who's going to be one of the better quarterbacks Nebraska plays all year. Nebraska's gone to get some good ones already. So this is one of the better ones they've seen this year in terms of just a true college quarterback that runs an offense that he's maximizing right now. Any type of doubt they can get into Curtis Rourke, just even getting him to tap that ball for a second longer than he needs to on those RPOs, on those quick reads, is enough for a Marcus Buford or a C.R. Wright to jump in front of a pass and make a play.
Perhaps Tommy Hill too.
Perhaps.
We'll see what he looks like on Saturday in Bloomington. Matt Rule on Monday said that Tommy Hill was close to actually playing against Rutgers, but his plantar fascia kind of just acted up, and he was unable to go against the Scarlet Knights. But with a good week of practice, a full week of practice, perhaps Tommy Hill will be out there with the first team defense, and that'll maybe change things with the way Sierra Wright is playing. He's playing at an all Big Ten level, in my opinion. I know, Tim, you like what Sierra has shown too. Maybe that gives an opportunity for Marquise Buford to rotate back to a safety and maybe rotate with Malcolm Hartzog.
Yeah, they asked Tony White about that too, and he seemed just a little flustered, just on kind of his embarrassment of riches been the secondary now. Something going into the year we had a question, hey, who's that second corner going to be? Now they've got a couple options.
Yeah. I mean, it has to feel good for the people inside this program to do what they did with Marquise Buford, and he has held his own. He's had some ups and downs over there, but for the most part, he's done a really good job.
Yeah, you can't complain with the overall performance you got out of him the first 6 games.
Absolutely.
But that'll probably do it for us here at Inside Nebraska. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel for all of our YouTube content directly into your feed. Tomorrow morning, as you're seeing this tomorrow morning, Steve and I will have the Nebraska football show up. We'll have our bowl predictions up on Thursday as well, so stay tuned for all of that. And after the game, we will, of course, have the press conference and our rapid recaps again. So stay tuned for all of that. From Steve Marik, Tim Verghese, I'm out. We're out.
Yeah. We're out.